My wife divorced me and called me worthless after I gave up my career to build her consulting business and raise our sons for a decade, but then I found out she was cheating with my best friend Danny for over a year. When her business collapsed, she asked me to help her avoid bankruptcy. For context, I turned 52 last month. My ex-wife Laura is 49. We have 2 sons, Reese is 23 and Jamie is 21. We got divorced 8 months ago after being married for 26 years. I need to write this down because people keep asking me what happened. Our mutual friends have been calling me for weeks trying to understand how things fell apart so quickly. Some of them think I did something wrong. Others want to know if there is any chance we might work things out. I am writing this to set the record straight. Laura and I met in college. We both came from families that did not have much money. After graduation, we worked regular office jobs. We got married when I was 26 and she was 23. Money was tight in those early years. We lived in a small apartment in Riverside and drove old cars that broke down constantly. When Reese was born, we barely had enough saved up for the hospital bills. Jamie came along 2 years later and things got even tighter financially. We both worked full-time until Laura was 38. That year, her father passed away from a heart attack. He left her a decent inheritance, around $200,000. Laura had always talked about starting her own consulting firm. She worked in business strategy and had good ideas about helping small companies improve their operations. The inheritance gave her the chance to actually do it. I encouraged her to take the risk. I told her she should quit her job and focus on building the business. She was nervous about the financial uncertainty. I said I would handle everything else so she could concentrate on making her dream work. We talked about it for 2 months before she finally agreed. Laura started her firm when she was 39. I was 42 at that time. The boys were 13 and 11. Laura needed to focus completely on getting clients and building her reputation. Someone had to handle the background work. I took on that role. I also became the primary parent at home because Laura was working long hours trying to get the business off the ground. After 6 months, I made a decision that seemed right at the time. I quit my job. Laura was starting to get some clients, but she needed help with the administrative side. She needed someone to handle customer service, manage schedules, deal with unhappy clients, organize files, and keep track of invoices. She could not afford to hire someone. I told her I would do it. For the next 10 years, I ran the back end of her business. I woke up at 6 every morning to make breakfast for the boys before school. I drove them to their activities. I did the grocery shopping and cooked dinner every night. I cleaned the house and did the laundry. Between all of that, I spent hours each day managing Laura's client relationships. I learned quickly that clients needed constant attention. If someone called with a problem, I dealt with it immediately. If a contract needed revising, I handled the back and forth. If a client was unhappy, I smoothed things over before Laura even knew there was an issue. I protected her from the messy parts so she could focus on the strategic work she was good at. The business grew steadily. By year 3, Laura was making good money. By year 5, she had a small office and 2 employees. By year 8, she was pulling in over $500,000 a year. Last year, the business cleared $1.2 million in revenue. We bought a big house in the suburbs when Reese was 16. We paid off all our debts. We took nice vacations. The boys went to good colleges without needing loans. Laura was the face of the business. She gave presentations. She met with potential clients. She developed the strategies that her company sold. I stayed in the background. I never had an official title. Laura paid me a small salary through the business, around $35,000 a year. She said that was fair since she was covering all our household expenses anyway. I did not argue. I was proud of what we built together. About 18 months ago, things started changing. Laura became distant. She stopped asking about my day. When I tried to talk about the boys or something funny that happened, she would look at her phone or walk away mid-conversation. She started going to bed early or staying up late working in her home office. We stopped having any kind of physical relationship completely. When I suggested we go on a date like we used to, she said she was too busy. I tried everything I could think of. I made her favorite meals. I planned a weekend trip for just the 2 of us, but she canceled at the last minute because of a client meeting. I suggested we talk to someone together to work through whatever was wrong. She refused. She said there was nothing wrong and I was being paranoid. The coldness got worse. She started snapping at me over small things. If I forgot to buy something at the store, she would get irritated. If dinner was not ready exactly when she got home, she made comments. One time I accidentally double-booked a client meeting for her and she did not speak to me for 3 days. 10 months ago, she told me we needed to talk. She asked me to sit down at the kitchen table. It was a Saturday morning. The boys were both away at college. She had a notepad in front of her with bullet points written out. That should have been my first sign of how calculated everything was. She said she wanted a divorce. She said she had been thinking about it for over a year. She said our marriage had run its course and she did not see a future for us anymore. I asked her why. I asked what I had done wrong. I asked if there was someone else. She said no to the last question. Then she started listing her reasons. She said I had been living off her success for too long. She said I contributed nothing meaningful to the business even though I spent hours every day managing her clients. She called me a stay-at-home husband who did not bring any value to her life. She said she felt like she had been carrying me financially for years and she was tired of it. She said she never wanted to be the only breadwinner, but I had forced her into that role by quitting my job. I reminded her that I quit my job so she could build her business. She said that was my choice and I should not expect to be rewarded for it now. I pointed out that I managed all her client relationships and kept her customers happy. She said anyone could do that work and she had been foolish to let me handle it for so long. She said she could hire an assistant for a quarter of what she was paying me and get better results. Then she said something that I will never forget. She said I was a mooch. She said I had gotten comfortable living off her income while doing the bare minimum. She said she looked at me now and saw someone who gave up on having a real career because it was easier to hide behind her success. I asked her if she really believed that. She said yes. She said she had built the business through her own talent and hard work. She said I just happened to be there while it happened. She said she could have been even more successful without me holding her back. I did not yell. I did not cry. I stood up from the table and walked outside. I sat in my car for 2 hours. When I came back inside, Laura was in her office working like nothing had happened. A week later, she handed me divorce papers. Her lawyer had already drawn them up. I looked through the documents. We had signed a postnuptial agreement 5 years earlier to protect the business in case anything ever happened. Laura had said it was important for tax purposes and to keep the business assets separate. I had signed it without thinking much about it because I trusted her. The postnup meant I had no claim to the business. I would get almost nothing from the divorce except half the value of our house. Laura kept the business, her retirement accounts, and most of our savings. The house was worth around $800,000. After we paid off the remaining mortgage, my half came to about $320,000. I could have fought it. I could have hired a lawyer and argued that I contributed significantly to the business even without a formal title. But I did not want to. I did not want her money. I did not want to be tied to her for years in a legal battle. I wanted to move on and rebuild some kind of life where I was not constantly being told I was worthless. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. We sold the house. Laura moved into a condo downtown. I found a small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My half of the house money went into savings. I bought cheap furniture and tried to figure out what to do next. I had not worked a real job in 10 years. My resume had a massive gap. I had no professional references besides Laura. I was 51 years old competing against people half my age who had recent experience and advanced degrees. I spent 2 months applying to jobs. I got very few responses. The few interviews I did get did not go anywhere. Hiring managers would ask about the gap in my employment. I explained that I had been helping run my ex-wife's business. They would ask why I did not have a formal title or salary history to show for it. I did not have good answers. Then I reached out to some of the clients I had worked with over the years. One of them was a guy named Sean who owned a mid-sized manufacturing company. I had managed his account for 7 years. I sent him an email explaining my situation. He called me the next day and offered me a job as his operations coordinator. The pay was decent, around $65,000 a year. I accepted immediately. Sean asked me during my first week why I was not working with Laura anymore. I told him the truth. I said we got divorced and I was no longer involved with the business. He asked if Laura was doing okay without me. I said I did not know. He nodded and did not ask anything else. 2 weeks later, Sean called me into his office. He said he had been thinking about switching consulting firms. He said Laura's company had been great when I was managing things, but the service had gone downhill recently. He asked if I could recommend another firm. I gave him 3 names of competitors I knew were good. Sean ended his contract with Laura. He signed with one of the firms I recommended. A few days later, I heard through a mutual contact that another one of Laura's major clients had also left. Then another one. Within 2 months, she had lost 4 of her biggest accounts. I did not feel good about it. I did not feel bad about it either. I just went to work every day and focused on doing my job well. Sean was happy with my work. He gave me more responsibilities. I was learning that I actually was good at what I did, and people valued my skills when they were not being dismissed as worthless. Around this time, I ran into someone from Laura's office at a coffee shop. His name was David and he was 36 years old. He had worked for Laura for about 4 years. We had talked occasionally when I used to visit the office. He saw me and waved me over. David asked how I was doing. I said I was fine and asked how things were at the company. He shook his head. He said it was a disaster. He said clients were canceling left and right. He said Laura was scrambling to replace the accounts she lost, but she was burning bridges by being difficult with people. He said the office morale was terrible because Laura was taking out her stress on the staff. David said Laura had hired an expensive consultant to take over client management after I left. He said the consultant lasted 6 weeks before quitting because Laura kept undermining her decisions. After that, Laura tried to manage the client relationships herself. David said she was terrible at it. She did not return calls promptly. She got defensive when clients had concerns. She did not remember personal details about clients that mattered to them. David told me 3 employees had quit in the last 2 months. He said he was looking for another job too. He said working for Laura had become unbearable. He asked me what it was like being married to her. I said I was not going to talk about that. He apologized and changed the subject. I left that conversation realizing something I had been avoiding. Laura did not build that business alone. She had the strategic vision and the industry knowledge. But I had been the one who kept clients coming back year after year. I remembered names of clients' kids. I sent birthday cards. I called to check in even when there was no business reason to. I made people feel valued and heard. Laura never did those things. She thought the quality of her work alone would keep clients loyal. She was wrong. That was 3 months ago. I have not spoken to Laura since the divorce was finalized. Our sons talk to both of us separately. Neither of them has said much about what they think of the divorce. Reese came to visit me twice. Jamie came once. They both seemed uncomfortable and I did not push them to talk about it. That is where things stood until 2 weeks ago. Update 1. Some people asked me to update if anything changed. Things have changed a lot in the last month and a half. About 3 weeks after I posted originally, I started getting calls from someone I had not heard from in years. His name is Danny and he is 48 years old. Danny was one of my closest friends during the early years of my marriage. His wife is named Diane and she is 45. The 4 of us used to spend a lot of time together. We had dinners at each other's houses. We took a vacation together once. Our kids played together when they were young. Danny and I drifted apart around the time Laura's business really took off. Laura started moving in different social circles. She joined professional groups and networking organizations. She wanted to spend time with other business owners and successful people. Danny worked as a school teacher. Diane was a nurse. Laura started making comments about how we did not have much in common with them anymore. Eventually we stopped seeing them except for the occasional text on holidays. Danny called me out of the blue one evening. He said he heard about the divorce through someone we both knew. He said he was sorry things did not work out. He asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime. I said sure. We met up the following Saturday at a place near my apartment. We caught up on the basics first. He told me about his kids. His daughter was finishing nursing school. His son was working as an electrician. I told him about Reese and Jamie. Then Danny got quiet for a minute. He said there was something he needed to tell me but he did not know how to say it. He said Diane had found something on his phone 2 months ago. He said she saw messages between him and Laura. He said the messages made it clear that he and Laura had been involved with each other. He said it had been going on for about 14 months before Diane found out. I sat there looking at him. He kept talking. He said it started at a fundraiser for the school where he worked. Laura had been there because her company was a sponsor. They ran into each other and started talking. They exchanged numbers. It started as friendly catching up. Then it became more. Danny said he knew it was wrong. He said he felt guilty the entire time. He said Laura kept telling him that her marriage was over anyway and I did not appreciate her. He said she told him I was lazy and unmotivated and she was planning to leave me soon. He said he convinced himself that made it less terrible. I asked him if Laura knew Diane found out. He said yes. He said Diane had confronted Laura directly. She called her and told her to stay away from their family. Laura apparently told Diane that what happened between them was none of her business and hung up on her. Danny said Diane was furious. She told several people in their social circle what happened. Word spread quickly. Danny said some people reached out to Laura asking if it was true. Laura denied it to some people and told others to mind their own business. Danny asked me if I knew. I said no. I asked him if he was the reason Laura wanted the divorce. He said yes. He said Laura had told him she was going to leave me so they could be together properly. He said that was part of why he went along with it for so long. Then after the divorce, Laura started pulling away from him. She stopped responding to his messages as much. She canceled plans they made. When he asked her what was wrong, she said she was busy with work. Danny said he realized Laura had used him as an excuse to leave her marriage but never actually intended to be with him seriously. He said once the divorce was done, she did not need him anymore. He said he destroyed his marriage and lost his best friend for someone who did not even want him in the first place. I did not say much during this conversation. Danny apologized multiple times. He said he knew sorry was not enough but he wanted me to know he regretted everything. I told him I needed to go. I left the coffee shop and sat in my car for a while before driving home. I thought about calling Laura. I thought about asking her if it was true. But I knew it was. Everything made sense now. The distance that started 18 months ago. The sudden coldness. The way she was so prepared with her reasons for the divorce. She had been planning it all while sleeping with my friend. The following week, Reese called me. He asked if I had talked to Danny. I said yes. Reese said Jamie had found out too. Apparently, Diane had reached out to both of my sons to tell them what happened. She wanted them to know the real reason their parents got divorced. She was angry and wanted Laura exposed. Reese said he and Jamie had confronted Laura about it. Laura told them it was not their business and they should not believe everything they heard. Jamie got upset and said he knew it was true because Danny had admitted it. Laura then said that yes, she had been seeing Danny, but it only started after she and I had already emotionally separated. She said I had stopped being a real partner to her years ago and she found companionship elsewhere. Jamie apparently got up and left. He had just gone through a breakup 2 months earlier where his girlfriend cheated on him. Finding out his mother did the same thing to his father hit him hard. Reese stayed and argued with Laura for a while before leaving too. Reese said he felt guilty. He said when the divorce first happened, he believed Laura's version of things. He thought maybe I had gotten too comfortable and stopped trying. He said he did not understand why Laura was so cold to me until now. He apologized for not supporting me more at the beginning. I told Reese he did not need to apologize. I told him Laura was still his mother and it was not his job to pick sides. He said he was not picking a side, he was just acknowledging what actually happened. He said he wanted to come stay with me for a while if that was okay. His lease was ending soon anyway and he was looking for a new place. I said of course he could stay. Jamie called me a few days later. He was upset. He said he could not believe Laura did that. He said he felt like he did not know who she really was. I did not say anything bad about Laura. I just listened. Jamie said he needed some space from her for a while. He asked if he could come stay with me too. I told him yes. Both my sons moved into my small apartment last week. Reese is sleeping on the couch and Jamie is in the second bedroom. It is cramped but it feels good having them here. We have dinner together most nights. We watch sports or movies. Reese has been applying for jobs in the area. Jamie is finishing his last semester of college online. Laura tried calling me 4 days ago. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. She said we needed to talk about the boys. She said I was turning them against her. She said I had no right to poison them after everything she did for this family. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the whole thing. Yesterday, Danny called again. He said Diane filed for divorce. He said she took the kids and moved in with her sister. He said he had nowhere to go and asked if I knew of any affordable apartments in the area. I told him to check online listings and ended the call. People from our old friend group have been reaching out asking what really happened. Some of them seemed genuinely surprised. Others admitted they had suspected something was going on but did not want to say anything. A few people have stopped talking to Laura completely. Others are still friendly with her but have distanced themselves. I am not interested in spreading gossip or making Laura look bad. But I am also not going to lie if someone asks me directly what happened. The truth is coming out whether Laura likes it or not. That is where things are now. My sons are staying with me. My ex-wife is avoiding me. Her business is still struggling based on what I hear. I am just focused on work and being there for Reese and Jamie. Update 2: A lot has happened since my last update. I was not planning to write again but several people asked for another update and things have continued to develop in ways I did not expect. Laura's business has gotten worse. I know this because Reese is still in contact with David, the employee from her office who I mentioned before. David finally quit 2 months ago. He told Reese that the company was in serious financial trouble. Laura had lost nearly half her clients in the span of 6 months. She could not replace them fast enough. She was cutting costs everywhere. She let go of her remaining employees except for one admin assistant. David said Laura was trying to do everything herself now. She was working 80-hour weeks trying to keep the business alive. But she had no support system anymore. The clients who stayed were not happy. Several of them only kept their contracts because they were locked in for a certain period. David said once those contracts were up, he expected most of them to leave too. Around the same time, I heard from Sean at my job. He told me that Laura had called him asking if he would consider coming back as a client. She offered him a discount on her rates. Sean said he told her no. He said my work on his account had been a big part of why he stayed with her firm for so long, and without me there, he did not see the value. Laura apparently got upset during that call. She told Sean that I had turned him against her. Sean said he corrected her and explained that I had never said anything negative about her or her business. He said the quality of service simply was not the same. Laura hung up on him. A few weeks after that, Jamie came home one evening and said Laura had shown up at his campus. She wanted to talk to him. Jamie said he was not ready yet but she insisted. They sat in her car for about 20 minutes. Laura told Jamie that her business was failing. She said she was considering filing for bankruptcy. She said she could not afford to keep the office space anymore and was thinking about working from home. She asked Jamie if he thought I would be willing to help her find new clients or maybe come back to do some consulting work. She said I had relationships with people in the industry and it would really help her out. Jamie told her that was a ridiculous thing to ask. He said she could not treat me the way she did and then expect me to help her when things got hard. Laura said she made mistakes but we were still family and family helps each other. Jamie said she should have thought about that before destroying the family. He got out of the car and went back to his dorm. Jamie was angry after that conversation. He said he could not believe Laura had the nerve to ask for my help. Reese agreed. Both of them said I should not even consider it. I told them I was not planning to. The thought had not crossed my mind at all. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from an unknown number. I usually do not answer those, but I was expecting a call from a vendor at work, so I picked up. It was Laura. She asked how I was doing. I said I was fine. She asked about the boys. I said they were fine too. There was a long pause. Then she said she needed to talk to me about something important. She asked if we could meet in person. I said no. She asked if we could at least talk on the phone then. I said she could say whatever she needed to say right now. Laura started explaining her situation. She said the business was not doing well. She said she had been struggling to keep things together. She said she made some mistakes with client management and it caught up with her. She did not mention anything about the affair or the divorce or how she treated me. Then she asked if I would be willing to help her. She said she knew I had started working in the industry again. She said I had good relationships with people and maybe I could refer some clients to her. She said she would pay me a referral fee if anyone I sent her way signed a contract. I told her no. She asked why not. I reminded her that she said I brought no value to her business. I reminded her that she called me a mooch who did not contribute anything meaningful. I said if all that was true, then I did not see how I could help her now. Laura got quiet. Then she said she had been stressed and said things she did not mean. She said she knew I had worked hard during our marriage. She said she was sorry for some of the things she said during the divorce. She asked if we could move past it. I told her we could not move past it because there was no we anymore. I said she made it clear she did not want me in her life. I said I was not interested in being pulled back into her orbit now that things were not going well for her. She started crying on the phone. She said she did not have anyone else to turn to. She said all her professional contacts had dried up and her friends were not talking to her the same way anymore. I told her that was not my problem to solve. I said I hoped she figured things out, but I was not going to be the person who helped her do it. She asked if I was doing this to punish her. I said no. I said I was doing it because I needed to focus on my own life now. Then I ended the call. Reese and Jamie both said I did the right thing. Sean said the same when I mentioned it to him. But I did feel strange after that call. Not guilty exactly. Just aware that someone I spent 26 years of my life with was struggling and I was walking away from it. But I knew getting involved would be a mistake. Laura had burned that bridge completely. Last week, I heard from Diane. She reached out through Facebook. She apologized for not contacting me sooner. She said she had been dealing with her own situation and had not had the energy to reach out to anyone else. She said her divorce from Danny was moving forward. She said Danny had been trying to get her to reconsider, but she was done. Diane told me something I did not know. She said after she found out about the affair, she reached out to several people in Laura's professional network. She told them what happened. She said she wanted Laura to face consequences for what she did. Diane admitted it was petty and driven by anger, but she did not regret it. Diane said some of those people were potential clients Laura had been courting. Once they heard about the affair, they distanced themselves. Diane said she knew it was partly her fault that Laura's business was collapsing. She said she wanted me to know so I did not feel bad about not helping Laura. She said Laura brought this on herself. I did not know how to respond to that. I thanked Diane for telling me. She said she hoped I was doing okay and that she was glad my sons were supporting me. We have not talked since. 2 days ago, Reese told me Laura sold her condo. She is moving into a small rental apartment on the other side of town. She is shutting down the business officially. She is filing for bankruptcy to deal with the debts the company racked up trying to stay afloat. Reese said she is looking for a regular job now but is struggling to find anything at her previous level. Danny apparently reached out to Laura after hearing about her business closing. He asked if she needed anything. Laura told him to leave her alone. She said he ruined her life by dragging her into an affair and then letting his wife expose them. Danny told Reese that Laura was rewriting history. He said she was the one who pursued him and pushed for them to be together. Now she was blaming him for everything that went wrong. Reese asked me if I felt vindicated. I said no. Watching someone's life fall apart is not satisfying even when that person hurt you. But I also did not feel bad for Laura. She made her choices. She has to live with them now. Jamie is doing better. He has been talking to a girl he met through one of his online classes. He seems lighter than he did a few months ago. Reese got a job offer last week. He is starting next month. He said he is going to look for his own place once he has a few paychecks saved up. I am still at my job with Sean. He promoted me last month. I am now the director of operations. The pay is significantly better. I am starting to think about buying a small house instead of renting. Nothing big. Just something that belongs to me. That is everything for now. I do not know if I will update again. This chapter feels like it is closing. Update 3. This will be my last update. Some people have been asking what happened and I figured I should close out this story properly. Laura filed for bankruptcy 3 weeks ago. The business is officially closed. She had to sell most of her equipment and furniture to cover some of the debts. From what Reese told me, she lost a significant amount of money in the process. She is now working as a project manager for a small firm. The job pays around $70,000 a year. That is a massive drop from what she was making before. Danny and Diane finalized their divorce last month. Diane got the house. Danny is living in a one-bedroom apartment near the school where he works. He tried reaching out to me again a few weeks ago. He sent me a long text message apologizing and asking if we could eventually be friends again. I did not respond. I do not hate him, but I have no interest in having him in my life. Reese moved out 2 weeks ago. He found a decent apartment closer to his new job. Jamie is still staying with me while he finishes his last semester. He will graduate in May. He said he might stay in the area for a while after graduation. His girlfriend lives nearby and things are going well with her. Laura tried to contact me one more time about 3 weeks ago. She sent me an email. She said she had been thinking a lot about everything that happened. She said she realized she had taken me for granted during our marriage. She said she understood now how much I contributed to the business and to our family. She said she was sorry for the way she spoke to me during the divorce. Then she asked if I would consider helping her get back on her feet. She said she was not asking for money. She said she just needed someone who believed in her again. She said she knew she did not deserve my help, but she was asking anyway. I read the email twice. Then I deleted it. I did not respond. Reese asked me a few days later if I had heard from Laura. I said yes. He asked what I was going to do. I said nothing. He said good. He said Laura needed to figure out her own life without dragging me back into her problems. Last week, I put an offer on a small house about 15 minutes from my apartment. It is a 3-bedroom place with a yard. Nothing fancy, but it is in good condition and the price is reasonable. My offer was accepted yesterday. I will close on it next month. Jamie said he is happy I am buying a house. He said it feels like I'm actually building a new life instead of just surviving. Reese said the same thing when I told him. Both of them want to help me move in when the time comes. Sean told me yesterday that another one of Laura's former clients reached out to him asking about my work. The client was impressed with what Sean said and wants to meet with me about potentially bringing me on as a consultant for their company. It would be side work on top of my current job. The pay would be good. I have a meeting with them next week. I ran into someone from my old friend group at the grocery store last weekend. Her name is Patricia and she is 50 years old. She and her husband used to have dinner with me and Laura occasionally. Patricia asked how I was doing. I said I was doing well. She said she heard about everything that happened with Laura and Danny. She said she was sorry things turned out that way. Patricia told me that most of their mutual friends had distanced themselves from Laura. She said Laura had become difficult to be around. She was bitter and blamed everyone else for her problems. Patricia said Laura made comments about how I had sabotaged her business by turning clients against her. Patricia said she tried to explain to Laura that I had not done anything wrong, but Laura would not listen. Patricia asked if I was seeing anyone. I said no. She said I should think about it. She said I was still young enough to start over and find someone who actually appreciated me. I told her I was not in a rush. She smiled and said that was probably smart. I thought about that conversation for a few days. I do not know if I want to date again. The idea of trusting someone enough to build a life with them feels impossible right now. But maybe eventually. Not anytime soon though. Jamie asked me last night if I was happy. I thought about it for a minute. I told him I was not unhappy. He said that was a start. He said he was proud of me for not taking Laura back or helping her out of guilt. He said a lot of people would have given in. I have been thinking about what happiness means now. I have a job I am good at. I have a house I am about to own. My sons talk to me and visit me regularly. I do not wake up every day being told I am worthless. That feels like enough for now. Laura's life fell apart because of her own choices. I did not cause it. I did not help it along. I just stepped back and let the consequences happen. Some people might think that makes me cold. Maybe it does. But I spent 10 years building something for someone who threw it all away and blamed me for her problems. I do not owe her anything now. Danny destroyed his marriage for someone who did not actually want him. He lost his family and his best friend. That was his choice too. I do not feel sorry for him. Diane got her revenge by exposing Laura to their social circle. She helped destroy Laura's reputation and her business. Some people think she went too far. I do not have an opinion on it. It was not my revenge to take. My sons are building their own lives. They are not carrying the weight of their mother's mistakes. They are moving forward. That is all I wanted for them. I am moving forward too. Slowly. One day at a time. I bought furniture for the new house last weekend. I am planning what to do with the yard once I move in. Small things. Normal things. Things that belong to me and no one else. This is the end of the story. There is nothing dramatic left to tell. Laura is struggling, but that is her life now. Mine is separate. I am keeping it that way. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My boyfriend thought I couldn't speak Spanish. Then I caught him bragging about cheating with 3 girls in Spanish. When I finally revealed I understood everything, he tried to make himself the victim and blame our breakup on my deception. I don't know if I'm wrong here or if my boyfriend is trying to make me look like the bad person. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Daphne, 19F, and my boyfriend is Miguel, 20M. We've been together for 2.5 years now. I moved to his town when I was 16 because my dad got a new job. It was really hard starting at a new high school where I didn't know anyone. Miguel was one of the first people who talked to me. He had this group of friends who were mostly from Mexican families. Their parents had moved here years ago, but they all grew up speaking Spanish at home. When I first met them, they would sometimes talk in Spanish to each other, but Miguel would always make sure to speak English when I was around. He would also translate things for me if his friends forgot and said something in Spanish. Here's the thing that nobody knows. I actually understand Spanish perfectly. My mom is from Colombia, but she moved here when she was young and married my dad. She always spoke Spanish to her family on the phone, and I watched a lot of Spanish TV shows and movies growing up. I can understand everything, but I've always been too scared to speak it because my accent sounds terrible. English speakers trying to speak Spanish often sound really bad, and I was embarrassed about how I would sound. When I first met Miguel's group, I heard them talking in Spanish and understood everything. But I was new and nervous, so I just pretended I didn't understand. I thought it would only be temporary until I got more comfortable. I was worried that if I tried to speak Spanish, they would laugh at my accent or think I sounded stupid. Miguel was really sweet about it. He always made sure I felt included. If someone in the group said something funny in Spanish, he would translate it for me so I could laugh too. His friends were nice about it and would switch to English when they remembered I was there. After about a year of friendship, Miguel and I started dating. By then, everyone was used to the idea that I didn't speak Spanish. It felt too weird to suddenly say I actually understood everything they had been saying around me for a whole year. I kept thinking I would tell Miguel eventually, but the longer it went on, the more awkward it felt to bring up. Miguel's family really liked me. His mom would try to teach me basic Spanish words when I came over for dinner. She would point to things and say the Spanish word, then have me repeat it. I would pretend to struggle with the pronunciation and act like I was learning it for the first time. His little sister would also try to help me with simple phrases. They thought it was cute how hard I was trying to learn their language. About 6 months ago, I decided I wanted to actually improve my spoken Spanish. I found a tutor online who helps people with conversation practice. I've been taking lessons twice a week, working on my accent and pronunciation. My plan was to surprise Miguel by speaking Spanish to him on his birthday next month. I thought it would be this romantic moment where I could finally talk to his family in their language and show him how much I cared about being part of his world. Miguel and I both started university this year. We decided to get an apartment together off campus. It was a big step, but we had been together for over 2 years and thought we were ready. My parents were a little worried about us living together so young, but they liked Miguel and trusted my judgment. The first few months of living together were good. We both had to adjust to university classes and living on our own. Miguel was studying engineering and had a lot of difficult classes. He would often stay late at the library or go to study groups. About 2 months ago, I started noticing that Miguel was coming home really late. He would leave in the morning for classes and not come back until 11 or 12 at night. When I asked him about it, he said he was studying with classmates or working on group projects. I know engineering is hard, so I didn't question it too much. Then last week, something happened that changed everything. Miguel came home around 11 p.m. like usual. I was in our bedroom doing homework when I heard him talking on the phone in the living room. He was speaking Spanish, which wasn't unusual since he often called his family or friends from high school. But as I listened, I realized he wasn't talking to his family. He was talking to his friend Carlos from our old high school. Carlos had moved to a different city for university, but they still kept in touch. What I heard made my stomach drop. Miguel was telling Carlos about 3 different girls he had been hooking up with. He was bragging about how he was seeing all 3 of them and none of them knew about the others. He talked about where he met them, what they looked like, and what they did together. He even laughed about how easy it was to lie to me about where he was going. The worst part was how casual he sounded. He wasn't guilty or worried about it. He was proud. He told Carlos that 1 girl was in his physics class, another was someone he met at a party, and the third was a girl who worked at the coffee shop near campus. He said he told all of them that he was single. I sat there listening to every word. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop listening. He talked for almost 20 minutes, giving Carlos details about his hookups and asking for advice about juggling all 3 girls plus me. When he finally hung up the phone, I walked out to the living room. I told him I had heard everything he said. I told him I knew about the 3 girls and that I knew he had been lying to me about where he was going every night. Miguel's face went completely white. But instead of apologizing or trying to explain, he got mad at me. He asked how I could understand what he was saying. I panicked and told him I had picked up some Spanish from being around him and his family for so long. He didn't believe me. He said there was no way I could understand everything from just picking up bits and pieces. He said he never spoke Spanish directly to me, so how could I have learned enough to understand a whole conversation? Then he said something that made me realize how messed up this whole situation was. He said he couldn't trust me anymore because I had been lying to him about understanding Spanish. He said if I could lie about that for over 2 years, what else was I lying about? I couldn't believe it. He was the one who had been cheating with 3 different girls, but somehow I was the liar who couldn't be trusted. We had a huge fight. I kept trying to talk about the cheating, but he kept bringing it back to the Spanish thing. He said I had been deceiving him our whole relationship and that he felt violated because I had been listening to his private conversations without him knowing. Finally, Miguel packed a bag and said he was going to stay at his friend's place. He said he needed time to think about whether he could ever trust me again. He left that night and hasn't been back to the apartment since. I've been here alone for 3 days now. Miguel won't answer my calls or texts. His friend David told me that Miguel is really hurt and feels like our whole relationship was built on a lie. I keep going back and forth about whether I was wrong. Yes, I should have told Miguel I understood Spanish from the beginning. It started as just being embarrassed about my accent, but it went on way too long. I know that wasn't right. But at the same time, he was cheating on me with 3 different girls. He was lying to my face every single day about where he was going and what he was doing. He was telling other girls he was single while living with me and talking about our future together. Some of my friends say I should forget about the Spanish thing because cheating is so much worse. But other people are saying that lying about understanding a language for over 2 years is pretty serious too. I don't know what to do. Miguel is acting like I'm the one who destroyed our relationship, but I feel like he's the one who was betraying me. Am I wrong for not telling him about the Spanish? Should I be apologizing to him? Or is he just trying to make me feel bad so he doesn't have to deal with the consequences of cheating? I really need some outside perspective because I can't tell if I'm being crazy or if he's manipulating me. Update 1: A lot has happened since my last post, and I wanted to update everyone who gave me advice. First, thank you to everyone who commented. Reading all your responses really helped me understand what was happening. A lot of people mentioned something called Darvo, which I had never heard of before. After looking it up, I realized that's exactly what Miguel was doing. He was trying to make himself the victim so he wouldn't have to face consequences for cheating. The day after I posted, Miguel finally texted me. He said he wanted to come get more of his clothes and that we needed to talk. I agreed to meet him at the apartment that evening. When Miguel arrived, he seemed different. He wasn't angry like he had been during our fight. Instead, he acted like he was the one who had been wronged and I should be grateful he was even willing to talk to me. Miguel sat down and told me he had been thinking about everything. He said he could maybe forgive me for lying about the Spanish, but only if I promised to be completely honest about everything else. He wanted me to tell him every single conversation I had ever overheard and understood. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He still wasn't acknowledging the cheating at all. So I brought it up directly. I asked him about the 3 girls he had told Carlos about. Miguel's whole attitude changed. He said that what he did wasn't technically cheating because we never explicitly said we were exclusive. This was ridiculous because we had been living together and talking about our future. We had met each other's families and were planning to spend his birthday together next month. I reminded him that he had told these girls he was single, which meant he knew what he was doing was wrong. He said that was different because he didn't want to complicate things by mentioning he had a girlfriend. Then Miguel said something that really showed me who he really was. He said the hookups didn't mean anything because he was planning to break up with those girls eventually anyway. He said I was the one he actually cared about, so I should be happy that I was the main one. I asked him if he had been using protection with these other girls. Miguel got defensive and said that wasn't any of my business. I told him it absolutely was my business since we had been sleeping together this whole time. He finally admitted that he hadn't been using condoms with all of them. That's when I realized I needed to get tested for STDs. I had never even thought about that before because I trusted Miguel completely. The idea that he might have exposed me to something made me feel sick. Miguel could see that I was getting upset, so he tried a different approach. He said he was sorry about the other girls and that it wouldn't happen again. He said we could start fresh if I promised to never lie to him again about anything. But then he added conditions. He said I would need to prove I could be trusted by being completely transparent about everything. He wanted access to my phone and social media accounts. He wanted to know where I was going and who I was with at all times. He said this was only fair since I had been deceiving him for so long. I realized that Miguel wanted me to be the one to make up for his cheating. In his mind, my lie about Spanish was worse than him sleeping with 3 other people behind my back. I told Miguel I needed time to think about everything. He said he would give me 1 week to decide if I wanted to make our relationship work under his new rules or if I wanted to break up. After he left, I called my mom. I didn't tell her about the Spanish thing because I was still embarrassed about that. But I told her that I had found out Miguel was cheating and that he was now trying to make it seem like it was my fault. My mom was furious. She told me that no man who truly loved me would ever cheat and then try to blame me for it. She said Miguel was showing me his true character and I should believe him. Then my mom said something that really stuck with me. She said that the right person would make me feel safe to be myself, including speaking Spanish with an imperfect accent. She said someone who truly cared about me would be patient while I worked on something I was insecure about, not use my insecurities against me. Over the next few days, I kept thinking about what kind of relationship Miguel and I actually had. I realized that I had been doing a lot of work to make him comfortable while he wasn't doing the same for me. I thought about how I had been taking Spanish lessons to surprise him, while he was using that same language to coordinate cheating on me. I thought about how his family had been so welcoming to me, not knowing that their son was treating me terribly. I also realized that Miguel had probably chosen to have those phone conversations in Spanish specifically because he thought I couldn't understand. He felt safe talking about cheating in front of me because he believed I was ignorant. That felt almost worse than the cheating itself. On Saturday, I went to get tested for STDs. Sitting in that clinic waiting room was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. I had to explain to the nurse that my boyfriend had been cheating with multiple people and I needed to make sure I was healthy. The tests wouldn't have results for a few days, but the nurse gave me information about what to watch for. She also recommended that I get tested again in 3 months, since some things don't show up immediately. While I was waiting for my test results, I started packing up Miguel's belongings. I found things that made the cheating seem even more real. There were receipts for restaurants I had never been to and movie tickets for shows we hadn't seen together. I found a small piece of jewelry that wasn't mine hidden in his drawer. I also found a notebook where Miguel had been keeping track of his lies. He had written down what he told each girl about his schedule so he wouldn't get caught contradicting himself. He had my schedule written down too, so he knew when I would be in class or at work. Seeing how organized and planned out his cheating was made me realize this wasn't just a mistake or something that happened in the moment. Miguel had been deliberately deceiving me for months. My test results came back clean, which was a huge relief. But I was still angry that I had been put at risk without my knowledge or consent. By the time Miguel's 1-week deadline arrived, I had made my decision. When he came to the apartment, I had all his stuff packed and ready by the door. Miguel seemed surprised that I had already made up my mind. He asked if I had thought about his offer to start fresh. I told him I had thought about it and realized that what he was offering wasn't actually a relationship. It was me accepting punishment for his choices. Miguel tried to argue with me. He said I was making a huge mistake and that no one else would put up with my lying the way he had. He said I should be grateful that he was willing to forgive me and give me another chance. I handed him his bags and told him I would not be apologizing for understanding a language that my own mother speaks. I said that while I should have been honest about the Spanish from the beginning, it didn't justify cheating or putting my health at risk. Miguel took his stuff but said this wasn't over. He said he would be telling everyone the truth about what kind of person I really was. He said his family and friends would be very disappointed to learn how I had been deceiving them. I told him he was free to tell people whatever he wanted, but I would also be free to tell my side of the story. After Miguel left, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I wasn't happy about how everything ended, but I knew I had made the right choice. Update 2: I wanted to give another update because some interesting things have happened since Miguel and I broke up. The first thing that happened was exactly what Miguel had threatened. He told his family and friends his version of what happened between us. According to him, I had been lying and deceiving everyone for over 2 years, and when he confronted me about it, I tried to make him look bad by accusing him of cheating. Miguel's mom called me a few days after our breakup. She said she was disappointed in me for lying about the Spanish and that she felt foolish for trying to teach me words I already knew. She said the whole family felt betrayed and that they had welcomed me like a daughter. I apologized to her for not being honest about understanding Spanish. I explained that I had been embarrassed about my accent and that it had gone on longer than I intended. But I also told her that Miguel had been cheating on me with multiple girls and that's what actually ended our relationship. Miguel's mom said she didn't believe me about the cheating. She said Miguel had told her I was making that up to get revenge for him being angry about the Spanish lie. She said her son would never do something like that. A few of Miguel's friends also reached out to me. Most of them took his side and said I was wrong for lying for so long. But one friend, David, seemed like he wasn't completely sure about Miguel's story. David asked me for more details about what I had heard Miguel say on the phone. When I told him about the conversation with Carlos, David got quiet. He said he would talk to Carlos himself to get the full story. 2 weeks after that conversation, David called me back. He said he had spoken to Carlos, and Carlos had confirmed everything I said. Carlos had even told David additional details about Miguel's cheating that I hadn't heard during the phone call. David apologized for not believing me initially. He said Carlos had told him that Miguel had been bragging about his hookups for months, not just that one night I overheard. Carlos had even warned Miguel that he was going to get caught eventually, but Miguel said he was too smart to get caught by me. David also told me something that made me understand Miguel's reaction better. Apparently, Miguel had been using Spanish conversations to coordinate his cheating for months. He would call his friends who had moved away for college and talk in Spanish about girls he was seeing, assuming I would never understand. Miguel had felt safe talking about his secrets in Spanish because he thought he had a foolproof way to hide things from me. When he realized I understood everything, he panicked because it meant I could have been listening to months of incriminating conversations. David said he was going to tell Miguel's family the truth about the cheating. He felt bad that they had been blaming me when Miguel was the one who had actually betrayed everyone. A few days later, Miguel's mom called me again. This time, she sounded completely different. She said David had told her about Miguel's cheating and that she had confronted Miguel about it. Miguel had eventually admitted that everything I said was true. Miguel's mom apologized for not believing me and for being harsh when she called before. She said she was embarrassed that her son had behaved that way and that she understood why I had ended the relationship. She also said something that really surprised me. She said Miguel had been lying to the family about other things too. After they found out about the cheating, Miguel's parents had started questioning other stories he had told them. They discovered that Miguel had been lying about his grades and had actually failed 2 classes last semester. Miguel had been telling his parents he was getting all A's and B's, but when they contacted the university, they found out he was on academic probation. The late nights he told me were for studying were actually him partying and hooking up with other girls. Miguel's mom said the family was very disappointed in him and that they were making him move back home. They were also making him get a job to pay back the money they had given him for rent and food, since he had been wasting their money instead of focusing on school. Around this same time, I found out something else that made me glad I had broken up with Miguel. Remember the girl who worked at the coffee shop that Miguel had mentioned to Carlos? Well, it turns out she had been telling people that she had a boyfriend who was helping her pay for school. One of my classmates knew this girl and mentioned to me that her boyfriend had suddenly stopped coming around and stopped giving her money. When my classmate described the guy, it was definitely Miguel. I realized that Miguel hadn't just been hooking up with these girls. He had been making them think they were in serious relationships with him. The coffee shop girl had thought Miguel was her boyfriend and that he was helping support her financially. This made me understand that Miguel wasn't just a cheater. He was someone who was comfortable manipulating multiple people and making them believe lies about his intentions and feelings. The coffee shop girl was probably just as hurt and confused as I was. I decided to reach out to her. I found her on social media and sent her a message explaining who I was and what had happened. I was worried she might not believe me, but she wrote back right away. She said she had been wondering what happened to Miguel because he had just disappeared without explanation. She had been worried that something bad had happened to him. When I told her about the cheating and the lies, she said it all made sense. The coffee shop girl told me that Miguel had told her he was single and that he was working extra jobs to help pay for her textbooks. She had thought he was being incredibly generous and caring. She had even introduced him to her friends as her boyfriend. We ended up talking for a long time about how Miguel had lied to both of us. It was actually helpful to talk to someone who understood what it felt like to be deceived by him. During our conversation, she mentioned something that made me realize how long Miguel had been planning his deception. She said Miguel had told her that he didn't speak Spanish, even though she was taking Spanish classes and had tried to practice with him. Miguel had lied to her about his language skills so she wouldn't understand if she ever overheard him talking to his friends. He was being careful to make sure none of his lies overlapped or contradicted each other. This conversation made me realize that my situation with Miguel was never really about me lying about understanding Spanish. Miguel was angry because I had accidentally discovered a system he had been using to hide his behavior. He turned it around on me because he needed me to be the bad guy so he could continue being the victim. I also realized that if I had told Miguel about understanding Spanish early in our relationship, he probably would have just found different ways to hide his cheating. The problem was never the language barrier. The problem was that Miguel was comfortable lying and manipulating people he claimed to care about. Since the breakup, I've been focusing on my classes and spending time with friends who actually care about me. I've also continued taking Spanish lessons, but now it's for me instead of for someone else. My tutor has been helping me get more comfortable with my accent. She told me that everyone has an accent when they speak a second language, and that being understood is more important than sounding perfect. I'm planning to study abroad in Spain next summer. I never would have considered that when I was with Miguel because I was too insecure about my Spanish skills. Now I'm excited to use what I've learned in a place where people won't judge me for trying. Update 3. I wanted to give one final update because a lot has happened and I think this will be the end of the Miguel situation. First, I found out that Miguel's problems got much worse after we broke up. Remember how his parents made him move back home and get a job? Well, it turns out Miguel had also been lying to his university about some things. David told me that Miguel had been caught cheating on exams in 2 of his classes. The university had been investigating him for academic dishonesty, and when they found out about his failing grades and the lies he told his parents, they decided to suspend him for a full year. Miguel's parents were furious when they found out. They had been paying for his education and supporting him financially, and he had been lying to them about everything. His dad made him get a full-time job at a warehouse, and his mom said he couldn't live at home for free anymore. Miguel had to move in with his friend Carlos and start paying rent. Carlos told David that Miguel was angry all the time and kept complaining about how everyone had turned against him. Miguel was telling people that I had ruined his life by exposing his secrets. But the most interesting thing happened about a month ago. Miguel tried to get back together with me. He showed up at my apartment one evening without warning. He looked different, tired and like he hadn't been taking care of himself. He said he had been thinking about our relationship and realized he had made mistakes. Miguel said he was sorry for cheating and that he understood why I had been upset. He said he had learned his lesson and wanted to prove that he could be a better boyfriend. He said losing me had made him realize how much I meant to him. I listened to what he had to say, but I could tell this wasn't really about wanting me back. Miguel's life had fallen apart after our breakup, and he was looking for someone to help him fix it. Miguel said he had broken up with all the other girls and that he only wanted to be with me. He said we could start over and do things right this time. He even said he would help me practice my Spanish so I wouldn't be embarrassed about my accent anymore. This last part showed me that Miguel still didn't understand what had actually happened between us. He thought the problem was my insecurity about Spanish, not his lying and cheating. I told Miguel that I wasn't interested in getting back together. I said I was glad he was sorry for cheating, but that didn't change what he had done or how he had handled it when I confronted him. Miguel got frustrated when I said no. He said I was being stubborn and that I would never find someone who knew me as well as he did. He said I was making a mistake by not giving him another chance. Then Miguel said something that reminded me exactly why I had broken up with him. He said that if I had just been honest about the Spanish from the beginning, none of this would have happened. He said the whole situation was partly my fault for not trusting him enough to tell him the truth. Even while apologizing and asking for another chance, Miguel was still trying to make me share responsibility for his choices. He was still the same person who had blamed me for his cheating. I told Miguel to leave and not to contact me again. He argued for a few more minutes, but eventually he left. A week later, I found out why Miguel had really tried to get back together with me. The coffee shop girl I had talked to reached out to me again. She said Miguel had contacted her too, trying to get back together with her as well. Miguel had told her the same story about learning his lesson and wanting to prove he could be better. He had even used some of the same exact words he had used with me. The coffee shop girl had also said no, and Miguel had gotten angry with her too. It turned out that Miguel had tried to get back together with all three of the girls he had been cheating with. He wasn't actually sorry or wanting to change. He was just looking for someone to help him get his life back on track. None of the girls had taken him back. They had all moved on and didn't want to deal with his drama anymore. I also found out that Miguel had been telling people a new version of our story. Now he was saying that I had been cheating on him and that's why he had started seeing other girls. He said I had been secretly meeting up with Spanish-speaking guys and that's how I learned the language. This was completely ridiculous, but some people believed him. A few of his friends started treating me coldly when they saw me around campus. I didn't bother trying to correct the story because I realized those people weren't worth my time anyway. The people who actually mattered, my real friends and family, knew the truth and supported me. Speaking of family, I ended up telling my mom the whole story about the Spanish. I had been embarrassed to admit that I had lied for so long, but I realized I was tired of keeping secrets. My mom wasn't angry at all. She said she understood why I had been insecure about my accent. She told me that she had gone through the same thing when she first moved here and was afraid to speak English in front of people. My mom and I have been speaking Spanish together more often now. She's been helping me with slang and expressions that I never learned from TV shows. It's been really nice to connect with that part of my heritage. I also told Miguel's mom the truth about the Spanish when she called to check on me a few weeks ago. She said she wasn't upset about it and that she understood why I had been embarrassed. She said she was just sad that Miguel had turned into someone she didn't recognize. Miguel's mom told me that the family was considering making Miguel pay back all the money they had spent on his education if he didn't get his act together. She said they felt like they had raised him better than this and didn't understand where they had gone wrong. As for me, I'm doing really well. I'm getting good grades in my classes and I have a part-time job at the campus library. I've made some new friends who actually appreciate me for who I am. I'm still planning to study abroad in Spain next summer. I've been accepted to a program in Madrid, and I'm excited to immerse myself in the language and culture. I've also started dating someone new. His name is Alex, and he's in my psychology class. He's not Spanish speaking, but when I told him about my background and my language skills, he thought it was really cool. He's been encouraging me to use my Spanish more and doesn't care at all about my accent. Alex knows the whole story about Miguel, and he's been really supportive. He says he can't understand how anyone could treat someone they claim to love the way Miguel treated me. The difference between Alex and Miguel is obvious. Alex makes me feel proud of my abilities instead of insecure about them. He's honest about his own life and doesn't make me guess what he's really thinking or doing. I realize that a good relationship shouldn't require me to hide parts of myself or walk on eggshells about my insecurities. The right person will make me feel safe to be completely myself, accent and all. Looking back, I can see that Miguel and I were never really compatible. I was trying so hard to be what I thought he wanted that I lost sight of who I actually was. I was spending all my energy trying to impress him instead of finding someone who would appreciate me without all that effort. The Spanish thing was never really about the language. It was about the fact that I didn't feel comfortable enough with Miguel to be vulnerable about something I was insecure about. In a healthy relationship, I should have been able to tell him about my accent fears and get support, not judgment. I'm grateful that I found out who Miguel really was before we got more serious. I can't imagine what would have happened if we had gotten engaged or married while he was still lying and cheating. Miguel is still in town, but we don't cross paths very often. When we do see each other, he ignores me completely. I'm fine with that arrangement. I heard from David that Miguel is still working at the warehouse and living with Carlos. He's supposed to reapply to the university next year, but David isn't sure if Miguel will actually get accepted back. I don't wish bad things for Miguel, but I also don't feel sorry for him. He made his choices and now he's dealing with the consequences. Everyone else isn't responsible for fixing the problems he created. As for me, I'm looking forward to my future. I have my Spanish lessons, my study abroad plans, and a new relationship with someone who actually deserves my trust. I'm finally comfortable with who I am, and I'm not going to hide parts of myself for anyone ever again. I wanted to thank everyone who commented on my posts and gave me advice. Your support really helped me see the situation clearly and gave me the confidence to stand up for myself. I'm in a much better place now than I was 6 months ago.